Okay then everybody, welcome to another Leicester Lives podcast in association with Igloo Staffing Solutions. They're our main sponsor, and Whiteski Digital, our IT sponsor. Welcome back. We've been away for a couple of weeks, or a couple of months should I say. Bit of time in Germany for the Euros, bit of rest and recuperation. But we're back with an excellent guest today. We've got Chris Popple in front of me. Chris, thanks very much for coming along.
Thanks for having me.
Being a guest on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Chris, you know how it works. We like to roll it all the way back at the start and talk about growing up. So take it away.
Back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I was born at an early age. I was born in Highfields. Moved around almost every estate in Leicester. My dad and mum just split up, back together, all the while I was growing up. So lived just about everywhere, Braunston, Matthews, Thurmaston, Belgrave, just moved all around. We settled down St Andrew's Estate in the flats down there because my dad was by then, well, they were back together. My dad was a steward at the Working Men's Club, which is now the Symphony Rooms or something, on Burnmore Street.
That's right.
So that was my stomping ground from age 11. And my mum and dad still kept splitting up back together. So I decided to stay with my dad. And I lived with my dad from age about 12 till leaving home. And great times around that way, met some great new friends. And I was a timid, shy kid, really. So, but I'd made some good friends and still friends for life, still people I still know,
Yeah.
Remember walking down Burnmore Street one day to go and see my dad at the South Leicester Club, as it was, and met this lad on the street. Opposite his house, we got talking, and that was Clem Dublin. And me and Clem were best mates through school, to be fair. We're still in touch now, which is fantastic, all got back in touch like a lot of us do, Fantastic. So then my dad got a job at New Parks Club, social club, which is another working men's club. We lived in there, so I moved into the flat within there. I stayed there till I left home. I left home at 17, married at 19, to a girl I was at school with, 2 kids from that, and worked straight from school in the motor trade at 15, left at 15, and same year started my first disco. My dad bought me some disco kit for my 16th birthday, and I've done that all my life. So that's been my main income on and off has been, I've always gone back to DJ, and I've had it to go back to. Like a plumber will know his trade. If he tries something else, he knows he can go back to plumbing. So I've had several little other jobs, including some self-employed, and gone back to DJ, and I've just retired from it this January.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Chris. When you were growing up, did you always see your career in music?
I wanted it to be. I remember saying it was the old days of the career office, and it was on Pocklington's Walk, where the careers person would pull a long drawer out of a filing cabinet sitting there. What do you want to do? I said, well, I want to do something with music, like a DJ, or I'll play the drums and stuff. And she went, well, that's not happening, sort of thing. So she flicked through. What else do you like? I said, well, I like music, I like cars. She went, cars? She went like that. Car valet job. And I said, oh, what's that? And she said, well, you clean cars, basically. You make them look like showroom standard again. I said, oh, I'll have a go at that. So that was the first interview I went to, and I got it, and it was in the middle of the cattle market. There's a little cluster of garages there. There was a paint shop, something else, and this valet shop. And he had the contract to valet all the cars for what was Bachelor Bowls,
right?
Which is still a Vauxhall dealer, I think it is, So stayed in the motor trade for about 15 years, but at the same time, I got my disco going, local youth club, Hazel Street Youth Club, friends parties, house parties, and then my dad started getting me bookings, paid bookings. The first paid booking I had at still 16, I think, was ICI, the chemical company, at office, and it was one of those in the back room of a pub, Skittle Alleys. You remember Skittle Alleys?
Yeah.
Social dues in Skittle Alleys. My first paid. So I got my little disco set up. Clem bought his big guitar speaker along. We stood it at the front. Box of records, but it was all funk and soul and reggae and stuff. And I soon learnt that you had to sort of start wondering what people like and what make them dance. And that was the beginning, and I've done it all these years, on and off, but a lot all these years.
Just going back to St Andrews, obviously that's an area of Leicester that's changed a lot, hasn't it? I mean, there was no Bede Island or anything like that around then. What do you ever go back around that area?
Yeah, I float around there from time to time. I lived in the flats, and the flats at that time had a walkway connecting the whole estate above. So we lived in it was basically a masonette. So we were ground floor, and then you had 2 flats above. But we were a 2-storey house, but we had 2 front doors. You had your standard front door and another front door in what was basically a spare bedroom. So you'd go out that front door and onto that walkway, and you'd go around, you'd call for your mates, you know, up in the air.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So the fun we had round there, you know, dropping bags of water off on people's heads and stuff. We used to wait near the end on Walnut Street, where there was a red telephone box, wait for people to come out and drop water on their heads and stuff, you know. So fantastic playground it was. It was a playground. We made it into our playground, and then the little park beside it, which is still there.
Yeah.
Little cluster of shops, the Turnstile pub, you know, which we'd hang about and ask people for money and stuff and what have you. But I remember all those. Clem got a job at the butcher's. Eric's the butcher, so he's going to stand in the back door with him and have a laugh with Eric the butcher. But it's back in them days where communities were supported, wasn't it? And you know, but it was just, I cut my teeth around there. It was Belgrave before that where I had mates, so again I had to make a new set of mates, like I said. But once I'd settled in, I had some good lads, some good mates around there. Football on the park, and you know, hanging with the girls and stuff, chilling with the girls and stuff, and you know, on the park. That's where we all met. That was our meeting place, you know. Sneaking a can of lager out, you know.
And all the excitement of having Filbert Street right next door to you as well.
Fantastic, yeah. So we used to go. My dad took me for the first time. I'd be about 12, and it was on the far side from Burnmore Street, and it was on the side. It was a nighttime game, and it sticks out in my mind, walking up the stairs to the first game and then seeing over the apex and seeing the grass under floodlights, and it looked like luminous green. And I thought, wow, the first stadium I'd been in apart from a Speedway Stadium as a kid, that was far smaller. And it was amazing. So then we used to go on our own. So at that age, so 12, 13, you'd go off on your own. Your parents, in case you just told them you were going. And I remember one time being in the COP with my friend who's called Steve Kelly. Clem was probably there. Steve's my cousin as well. He moved down that way. We went through school together. And remember sitting on the... Oh, no, I wasn't sitting on the ball. I was at the front because I was small. Couldn't see a lot. So it's all going off all the time. Every time the ball came down this end, right behind the goal I was, in the COP end, the crowd had surged forward and I kept getting crushed. And one time, a police officer had to kick this bloke back on his shoulder and pulled me out. So I was a little dot, even then a little chubby dot, sat me on the wall. So I watched the rest of the game on the wall. But I loved it. I remember all the names being bandied about, you know. I recently had a shop in the cattle market in Melton, and one of my regular visitors to come to the cattle market was Franklin Weaver. And from a kid, I remember him being up in the COP with the supporters, and his name being bent, like, yo, Weaver. And then later on in life, you see him uptown and go, how are you, young'un, and that, you know. And then, you know, as adults, as grown men, we had a chat about them days and stuff. I just remember all the names being bandied about, and you know, Maggie, there was a girl called Maggie who they said was the COP leader. Me and my cousin used to follow everybody down to the train station after, you know, not that we'd do anything, but we just like being involved, you know, all the skullduggery on the way to the station. Great memories, fantastic memories, Yeah,
I mean, it was all good fun and games, really, wasn't it? You know,
it was, back. We had, my favourites were Pete Shilton, because I played in goal for school, Rushmead, and then Westcoats. I just like goalie. I suppose it was the best. I was the best at it. We were not that good at running around the pitch, but just taking you back to when I lived in Highfields, we were down on Charnwood Street playing. Do you remember Charney, the old Charnwood Street? And we were hanging about. I'd only be 8 or 9, right? Me and a few friends hanging about in a laundrette. This old lady came in, well, old to her, she probably wasn't that old. And we were all sitting there, and after she'd done put her stuff, she said, do you know whose pyjamas I'm washing here? No. And she said, Peter Shilton's. And it was his mum. Washing his pyjamas. And we were like, wow. You know, and then, so if ever, behind the goal and Pete Shilton were in goal, it was fantastic. But I was kind of blown away by an Arsenal goalie, and I can't remember his name. The times when like Charlie George were in the team and that. And I just took to him, his style and that lot. And I started buying like Arsenal patches. And my mates, what are you doing? You know, I go on holiday with my dad to Skeggy in the gift shop to buy iron on Arsenal patches. It didn't last long. It didn't last long. Soon came back to it. But brilliant days, loved it. I went as much as we could as kids. Like,
No, good old days, Chris, good old days. So you start working the motor trade.
Yeah.
But I take it the music's where you really want to be.
Yeah. I did it side by side all that time. Like I said, married at 19, so by 19, I was like running a little business, if you like. And it's all word of mouth that day. Obviously, no social media. I didn't even have business cards or anything. Just print some flyers and my own flyers and give them out. Wife hated it. You know, you're at work all week and then you're out at weekend, but she didn't mind the money. I was bringing as much money home from doing a 5-hour disco as I was a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
And also, Clem and another few lads had a little band. I played drums in a band. We used to practice at New Parks Club, my dad's old club. And my first wife, my ex-wife, says it's either one or the other. You're at work all week, and the weekends you're either out with your friends playing drums, or practicing drums, or you're out doing a disco, or you're on your drums in the week. You can't do both. Baby on the way. We were 20, baby on the way.
Yeah.
So the drums went reluctantly, and the disco carried on. And I've done it nearly all my life, on and off a couple of times, a couple of breaks from it.
Yeah.
A couple of intended breaks from it, said, like, that's enough now, I'm getting out of it. And then so you soon realise, well, I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
Apart from valet cars, and I don't want to do that. You know, yeah, DJ, I wanted to do it. I did achieve quite a bit, actually. It opened a lot of doors.
I would just like to say a massive thank you to everybody who watches and supports this podcast, and in particular to our sponsors. Our main sponsor, Igloo Staffing Solutions, and our IT sponsor, Whiteski Digital. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this podcast, hit like, leave a comment, and do not forget to subscribe. Now let's crack on with the content.
I think I could have gone further as a known DJ, because I was in the right places at the right time. But that old saying, always a bridesmaid, never the bride. So I touched on some nice little things.
Yep.
But I'd always got to go back to commercial DJing to help pay the rent.
Sure.
Well, it was mortgage by just over 20. I think we had a mortgage. So by then it was, help pay the mortgage. I'd got to go to where the money was, which kind of scuppered my chances, if you like, of doing it for the love of it and maybe getting somewhere. But yeah, I did several different genres. Yeah.
So, with all the different genres that you've been involved in, Chris, we're going to sort of work the way through them and all the rest of it, but where did it start? Which sort of genre were you interested in, or were you involved in first?
I grew up on old Trojan reggae.
Right.
I bought my first Trojan LP in 1972, but it had come out in 69, and it was called Tighten Up Volume 2. And I bought it from the bargain bin at Briley's. I don't know if you know that name from the past.
I recall the name.
It's on Humberston Gate, and it's now, I think it's a Laser Quest or something.
Right.
So it's opposite where there's a pub on the corner, and then there's Rack and Roll.
Yeah, far end.
It's opposite there. And there's a pub called the Black Swan next door to it. Yeah, that was a big, like what we'd call a pound shop today, the Briley's. And if you bought anything from there, if you bought trousers from there, the kids would take them in. Or they'd say, oh, yeah, well, they're from Briley's, Because for us then, it was all Irish. We got everything from Irish.
Yeah.
But so Briley's took it home. Like I say, it was a couple of years old, and it was all the old Toots and the Maytals and all that. An early Bob Marley track, I think. And it just, it hooked me. And then having black friends from being born in Highfield and having black friends down that estate, you go around their houses, they put their records on, all the dad's records when the dad went out, The Dublins are all musical family anyway, they're all musicians. And their dad, Eddie, who's still alive and still performing, I found out last year, he'd have a fantastic little record collection. Some records are recorded in Jamaica in a band, or wherever I think it was Dominican Republic, actually. And then his brother, Ashley, was in a sound system and had a big old box with all the Jamaican recordings in, like a massive chest. When he'd gone out, me and Clem had opened it up and put them on and have a little skank about and that. A friend called Evan Thomas, lived just over the bridge on down Walnut Street, over the bridge towards the school. Same thing, round his house, records on, And I just grew up around that, but at the same time, a bit of soul as well, old soul, funk, early James Brown, proper funk and that lot, underground funk, early Fatback Band and all that lot. And but I had to start buying like disco and chart music, but the first love really was apart from some pop music I liked on the radio, was reggae. ska, first of all. My mum tells me that age 4 in 1964, I am to know that the first ska record to get into the British charts was My Boy Lollipop. Okay, Chris Blackwell at Island Records. Famous guitarist Ernest Ranglin, they put it together, they brought her to England. And my mum says when it came on the radio, I'd be jumping around the living room in my underpants, 4 years old, shouting, I like this jerky music, ma'am. and I was just hooked on it from there.
Yeah.
So then it was your obvious ones that got in the charts, or your Trojan and all that, and Johnny Nash, and and I just grew into it, and it went into that roots reggae after that. I got into that, listening to the conscious lyrics and thinking, Bob Marley especially. I was a massive Bob Marley fan from about 13, and back catalogue of albums, which he'd had about 3 out by then, and I bought every album after that, and I'd listen to every lyric, like people do with sort of indie bands and stuff, and get inspiration and stuff from it. And then I'd go to school and I'd ask questions about people, like Marcus Garvey and Haile Selassie. Well, we don't know anything about that. And I was starting to think, I started going to the library and asking and reading books on Marcus Garvey and that, and philosophers and Haile Selassie and that, and thinking, well, if that's their history, right, why don't we get told about that at school? And it was contentious. I used to bring it up and say, why? We do our history, obviously, with a lot of it's bent anyway, a lot of the old stuff. And then we did the Ming Dynasty, Chinese history. We did some Indian stuff, Sikh stuff, because we had a lot of, but why don't we do like West Indian, Caribbean stuff? And then I learned that it was, from what was being said in the records, because they wanted it keeping quiet. That's what it went. And I grew up with that frame of mind, and it taught me a lot.
It's ironic, Chris, because I was having this conversation with someone at the gym earlier today. We were saying about who decides what history the kids get taught at school, because you've got sort of 2,000 odd years of history, to go at. But there's only certain elements that people are ever taught, so fits right in with what we were discussing earlier.
Fits.
So,
I know it fits, Well, it just had an impression on me as an impressionable teenager getting into my teens and stuff. And just couldn't get enough of it. So, sort of Jamaican artists, we were lucky to have a shop over our way, St Andrews Way, but down on Narber Road, Terry Jackson's Soul, it was called. He was a soul DJ, independent record shop, and he'd import loads of Jamaican stuff. It had his soul section, we'd all look through it, and you could play them, and so you didn't have to know it. Oh, I like that, you take a copy, and I lost a lot along the way, but I've got some of them back now, and I'm back round to playing them again. And they're like Nova Soul, they're fetching good money if it's an original Jamaican import. And I had a lot of them at the time, and just listening to the lyrics, it just captured us. For some reason, around our area, and even now, seeing my school reunion group, when we get together, that's what we want. We were lucky enough to all grow up on it and like it. Because I've met kids who are like, what? And grew up on sort of glam rock, and which I didn't mind a bit of glam rock and stuff, but. And then went down this Oasis and indie route and that's how do you like reggae then? And I've had it said by people I know and people I don't know at a gig who put a bit of reggae on, because I've always tried to promote it. Newport Social Club, 1982, playing some reggae, and someone stood at the front, a bit of a lad, and said, what are you playing this N-word shit for? Am I allowed to swear? I said, well, I won't say the N-word, but what are you playing this N-word shite for? And I'm like, oh, come on, mate, it's music, look, everyone's dancing to it. And it was commercial music, it was all your, like, Good Thing Going, Sugar Miner, OK Fred, and that sort of stuff, and I couldn't get it. I thought, well, it's just music, we played all of the sorts, from Motown to 60s, rock and roll, and everything in between. It was a family night. And
I was going to ask you, particularly maybe for some of the younger people who watch this podcast, what the relationship was between, say, the black community in Leicester, particularly based around Highfields, and maybe sort of, the white population at the time, because it there was some tension,
It was
Leicester,
strained. There were friendships, but it was strained. When we got to going out age, sneaking into over 18s nights or going to under 18s nights, some of my friends went down the Northern Soul route, used to hitchhike up to Wigan and stuff. Some of us used to go in town, get doled up and go in town with your Ray Seams on and your Ben Sherman or your Fred Perry and that. And we'd frequent places like Freewheeler down Churchgate, which was predominantly a black club. And then we'd go to Il Rondo on Silver Street. Now, before that, I never knew that Il Rondo had a fantastic history with bands like The Who playing there. And then they come through the mod era, and a lot of mod bands played there. So I know now, mods a bit older than me, used to go there. But we'd start going about 76-ish, 77. And some of my black friends, because it was known that they played black music in there, the Trojan and all that lot, Liquidator and all that, you know. Like. And some of my black friends got turned away. And we're like, but it's a predominantly black music club. Well, we don't want them in here. And then what used to happen where they were allowed in, so obviously we'd go with them. We wouldn't say, oh, see you later. We'd go with them. Yeah. And then it'd be like, well, how's that right?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it just, me growing up with them, just seemed natural. Indians and black people, it just seemed natural. Even Chinese and that. Never had a problem with anyone, so I just never got racism and that. So that was the first real, you know, what I'd been reading in the books, and then that. And it was, so we started putting our own dues on. We started putting our own parties on. We'd go in town for a drink and then go blues parties. Places we were allowed. Freewheeler you were allowed. That was all soul and reggae in there. Several other little places we'd go and just pick out. So we called ourselves, we were neither skins, mods or soulies. We called ourselves Townley Reggae Boys. That's what we called ourselves. You know, and you get dressed sharp. Yep. And we try and look, in at the time was a massive knot on your tie. And we called it a spadey knot. No disrespect, because it was the black people who wore them like that, and we wanted to be like them. And we wore these we got into the polo tops, like a polo top, like a ribbed polo top, but with a big collar, like the Jamaican lads wear. We got into all that, you know, and it was like, yeah, that's the route we went down, sort of thing, if you like, yeah.
So fast forward to sort of the rave era, you know, how did you make the transition from the genre you were in to the rave?
Well, in between, just going along the line on a bit, just in between, I DJ'd at Fish and Court for quite a while, and that was in like the Baby Squad days and that lot, and that was a good time. Got to know everybody, had a fantastic little scene in there, and my reggae and soul wasn't being frowned on as much, so we developed a little scene. And there's an outfit called Classic Groove Control. I don't know if you know them. They're soul. They were soul boys at the time, import American soul, what we call rare groove nowadays. And they came along and said, do you mind if we come and play some tunes? So they bought a turntable to plug into my disco deck that would change speed. And they'd play all these 12-inch import funk and soul tunes and all the early electro, Afrika Bambaataa and all that, and, you know, all that. So I got into that. But my reggae was still going down well. That got shut down. I did my own night at Tops, which is the George, on the clock tower. The police come and shut it down. It was all going well. We were taking money on the door. I was taking quite a bit of money home. It was great. I had a little scene going because that had closed, Fish and Court. Police come down one night, inspector come, and he looked through the glass on the door and it was packed in there. I had my sound system in there, all big speakers and that. And he says, oh, it's busy in there. I'm not going in there. I've not got my torch and it's too dark. We knew what he meant, you know what I mean? And then the landlord on the Monday rang me up and said the police had told me to pull it. So again, another one, you know. So, but I got commercial DJing to fall back on. And then the rave scene. So I was working at JT's Piano Bar. I first started off taking over the piano bar itself, doing them bar shows and that. I took over from somebody who left and used to have to put wigs on and stuff and muck about and give things away and, you know, bar shows, I called them. So then I did downstairs in the cellar bar. I could play me club music down there, you know, bit of reggae, bit of whatever soul was out and whatever dance music was out. At the Fish and Court, that Classic Groove, that was a reason for bringing them up, introduced me to sort of early house. Right. House and garage, but American garage.
So what sort of year is this, would you say, Chris?
84. Yeah. 84. Yeah, I was there to 84 till about 86. And so I was into this sort of mixing the soul, 12 inches, and a bit of early house and a bit of what was US garage. And he explained house is called house because they play it all in a club called The Warehouse. So they just shorten it to house. They go in the record shops. Oh, you got into that warehouse music? Oh, that house music. So they learnt me where that came from. Same with garage. That come from a place called Paradise Garage. And it was a similar music, but a bit more jumpy, a bit more choppy. So got into that. Then from there, a couple of places, Coasters, I worked for a bit. Another place I got told to get that end shit off, but by the manager. And it was stuff that was in the charts, Maxi Priest and that.
Yeah.
But you go back to how did the black lads and the white lads and girls and lads integrate? That was still the times when the black people would come into a commercial club, but would tend to converge into a corner, you know, because that's where they felt safe. Yep. And that's how it was. So there's me playing a bit of reggae and all this soul and funk and quite credible music, you know. And the manager come across the dance floor, like Moses parting the Red Sea, straight up to the front of the DJ box, which was this way round. So, you know, the decks were there and it was open. And as I turned around, he was there. He went, "Get this N-word trash off." And I said, "It's in the charts." Not bothered, get it off. So I didn't stay there very long. Yeah. The lad who put me in there, he came back and I said, "You can have it back if you want." Then it was JT's. So the JT story, downstairs, cellar bar disco, nice and grimy, you know, could do what you want basically, you know, the things you saw and experienced and that in there, but loved it. It. Fantastic doorman, you got to know the bar staff, you felt part of something, you know. I got to know Jackie who owned it, Jackie Tolan and her fella. Then she opened Secrets, which was meant to be a bit of a velvety, dreamy club for the I don't know, the better off, a better class if you like. So you're downstairs for your scallywags and you're upstairs for your, your cocktails. And so she put me up there and I'm working up there. And again, fantastic, brilliant. I used to finish piano bar and on a Thursday run downstairs, do downstairs, same with the upstairs at the weekends, Friday and Saturday upstairs. Loved it, absolutely fantastic. And I was just in the right place, going to the right record shops when different music was coming down. This house had come stronger and was now getting into stuff like what we used to call bleeps and bass. There was a label called Warp Records, a lot on that label. A label called Network Records, a lot on that label. And I was playing them at JT's and somebody come up to me one night and said, "Have you ever been like Shelley's at Stoke or the Eclipse in Cov?" I said, "No, I've heard of them." And he said, "You're playing the right music in the wrong place. That's where you need to be." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know very much about it." But what I did know, I'd seen in the DJ mags that Ibiza was a scene called the Balearic scene. And that was all like early house, piano-y, hands in the air. I liked that. And I got JT's to put a night on and give it a name. I said, "What everybody's doing, they're putting a night on, but giving the night a name." And they're like, what are you on about? I said, "Well, it's not just like come to JT's. On this Saturday night, we're going to have a night called Energy, NRG. Not very original, but and I did flyers for it and put them on the screens. I tried that and it flopped. But I wanted to sort of, that's a route I wanted to go down. Something a bit more credible, but I had to stay where I was because it paid the rent. And it was regular, it was cash in hand, and it was, you know, I got on with everybody. I mean, I don't know if you remember Piano Bar, but it was frantic in there. It was, oh, I don't know, it was debauchery, you know, we just had so much fun in there. And then like, so I turned upstairs into like a dance club really. And then this guy came along, gave me a cassette and he said, "Listen to this." And I put it in the car on the way home. And because I was in the motor trade, I had a Jag that came in pork chop and I just tarted it up because I was a valeter. And I put it in the cassette player. And it was the Sky Blue Connection, Amnesia from Coventry. Derek May, Carl Cox, Groove Rider. Yeah, those three on one tape, and it blew me away. It blew me away. It was what I was playing, but different, not the same ones, but the same style. And it was never out of the cassette player. And then my little son, at the time, a son about 5, Man Paris was the MC on this session, and you'd hear him shouting, "Boom, you mother," and all this, that, and the other, and like, "Get Mental in the House," which was sampled by Alternate for their single. And they had it on Top of the Pops, and he tried suing them for it. They never asked his permission. But so walking around my son's bedroom one day, where he got 2 little tiny coloured kiddies record players, and I bought him the Prodigy, Charlie. He wanted that, and he had another couple, and he was putting Charlie on. And I walked by his bedroom, closed door, and I heard, "Boom, you mother!" It imitating this cassette in my car. So it infiltrated his head as well. So I called his mum up, we opened the door, and he's like, you know. And a customer of mine at my disco shop that I'd got at the time was Kenny Haig off was it Centre Radio or
Yeah,
something at the time?
up by Vicky Park, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. He used to come and buy his equipment off me, so another couple of the DJs did, and he heard about it and invited him on the show. So we took him on the show. Kenny sat with Lewis on his knee and put the record on and says, "Do you want to introduce it then?" And he said, "Yeah." And he started, so Kenny started it, and Lewis sat there like that, and Kenny's like, and it's Charlie, and Lewis is like, "Boom, you down the mic, make some noise." And I said, "Sorry, Kenny, sorry." And he went, This is what it's coming to. I said, "This is rave music, mate. This is what it's all about." And at said shop, somebody came in one day, the same chap who'd given me the tape, Skinny Williams, who later became my MC, Stephen Williams, MC Truth, he was called, Skinny Williams. And he came in and he said, "There's a do at Donington, Amnesia, they need some decks. No one's thought to buy some decks, and there was a shortage in the country. I knew that from being in the industry." So I says, "I'll get you some today." So he says, "How are you going to do that?" And, "I'll get you some today." So I went to Mays Electrical on Churchgate and bought one, retail price with a couple of quid off, and went to Mays on Humberston Gate and bought another one. But then I put Stanton 500 cartridges on them and inflated the price. So that was my profit there. Delivered them over, and they couldn't believe it. Wow, how you managed to get these, and what a service driven. I'd driven them over because I wanted to see it all.
Yeah.
The only other one I'd seen was a DJ SS rave at Granby Halls when it was still called Nemesis, and I delivered him a mixer from the shop. Went and plugged it in and everything, and he said, "Come back." So I went after JT's in my white shirt and my Farrahs and that, into a rave where everyone's wearing baggy t-shirts, sweating and dancing, going to the toilet, and I'm like, "What's this all about?" But so the next time was going up to Amnesia, and so they gave me tickets for it. And I got my son with me, and they said, "Oh, are you into all this?" "Yeah, I love it, I do." So we went the next night, me and a few friends, and that night I think it was actually, and yeah, it was again it was blown away. It was the same thing, but next level.
Yeah,
it's the next level.
Yeah.
And on that day, like Carl Cox played on my mixer, Groove Rider. And it's out on video. You can buy it. It's the one where Neville, one of the Amnesia presenters, stopped me music, stood on the stage and announced that they're opening their own club in Leicester. That was the first time it was heard. So and that just became a thing. They'd end up losing the decks every time. So every event they had, I'd supply them a new pair of turntables and a mixer, and go along for free.
Yeah.
But the rave scene started reeling me in, as it does.
Yeah.
And I took my eye off the ball a bit. I was DJing at Nicky's nightclub by this time on New Walk, and I phoned in and said I was ill, and I went to Total Chaos at Starlight 2001 as a punter. They'd been buying bits from a shop, UV lights and stuff. I'd go and set them up, put UV lights on, a couple of strobes and stuff on the balcony. And it was the lads who were running Sneakers Records, Idris and that. And he said, come back tonight if you want. So I rang in sick to Nicky's, went there, and Nicky's sister was only in there. And the rest is history, you told us you're in and you go raving. And I was, sort of just getting into it. I just loved it. I loved the freedom of it. And I remember saying to people, you know what this is like? And I missed out on it. The closest thing this is to is the old Northern Soul scene. And I said, what do you mean? And this are youngsters. You could tell there's youngsters in there, 16, 17, 18, washing their faces and stuff. And they'd be like, how many you had, mate? We'd go, oh, I've had 6, I've had 8, I've had handful of trips. And I'm like, why are you having that many, lads? And I'll be 32 by then, so I'll be a bit older, And I'd say, you don't go into a pub and line up 6 pints and go bosh, bosh, bosh. You have the first one, see how you get on, and the second one, get a bit of a beer buzz. A few more, you go, oh, that's it for now. I'm all right. I said, do you know what, that's wicked. I said, and it'll save you money. So do one at a time and be safe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I suppose me having older head on my shoulders, and that scene being predominantly younger, I helped out a bit like that.
Sure.
And it just took me in, and I just enjoyed the whole scene, and then it was Fantasia at Donington, massive outdoor rave. I supplied the decks and mixer for the house tent, and I think that was like Paul Oakenfold and all that played in there. Rat Pack and all them on stage, which was done out like a castle. And my son, who is now 7, Lewis, used to play my records in the shop, and then one of the promoters came in, and what's he doing? They're just like fluking it on the deck, and fluking it to the next track. And they booked him, they gave him a slot at Fantasia in the Leicester, what we call the Leicester Big Top. It was a big top tent, mainly Leicester DJs. And I didn't get a slot there, but my 7-year-old son, a bit of a novelty, obviously.
Yeah.
I stood him on my record box. I gave him a handful of records, and he'd put them on, and he'd just cross them over at the right time, and they were in time, and the crowd were like, ugh. And the MC got him on his shoulders. I think it was Bassman or someone, one of them early MCs, Spider maybe. Took him to the front of the stage after his set on his shoulder, and girls were crying. And it was like, oh, those are obviously up on their synthetic stimulation, and they were crying. So it was just like beautiful, and he's still a DJ to this day.
Brilliant.
Lewis, he's knocking 40 now, plays drum and bass.
Yeah.
But I got in touch with Amnesia to see if they'd got any unedited footage that he might be on, and they have said we may have, but they gave him a little handmade crew jacket in a kid size. A Rat Pack gave him some records and signed them, and he had a letter from Amnesia thanking him, from Fantasia thanking him for playing, which his mum framed and put up in the house. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, the rave scene was so very different from anything that has sort of precluded it.
Definitely. It brought a lot of people together. It brought a lot of people together, football hooligans, and started chilling out. You know, it did bring a lot of people together. There's a lot of togetherness, which is what it was all about. Like the old Northern Soul scene. That's what I went to say. Everybody, a lot of people under one roof. Not a lot of alcohol involved, if any. You know, have a pint before you went, a couple of cans of Red Stripe before you went or something. Everyone on the same synthetic stimulation, everyone into the same music. Perfect harmony, really.
Yeah.
And I said to youngsters, which is why I bought it and got sidetracked, this is very close to that. This is a new version of that, like a new world version of, and it was. And you know, we then learned that rave was actually born, in the true sense, in the Midlands in England. You know, I was part of a rave documentary recently, and things came up, said about, apparently the 3 guys went to Ibiza, came back with some records back to London where they lived, and that's how rave started. Untrue. Coventry started it with Amnesia, the early Amnesia, the illegal ones, and then they were the first to do licensed ones. Yeah. And then in Leicester, you know, it took off with us, Nemesis, and me and a partner ran a thing called Raw, which was at JT's. When it was failing, Jackie had sold it by now. Somebody else ran it, it went into receivership, so they were just running it. So it had failed. Open Secrets had failed. And I said to the manager, can I take this on and I'll put a night on here every week? And we painted the whole club black, installed my sound system, floor to ceiling sound system. And we did a rave night called Raw every week, sometimes twice a week. And we had big names in there. Big name, Carl Cox, DJ Raps, who's massive in America now. You know, SS, and, you know, as many locals as we could, Master Safe and all them. Yeah. And we took new kids on as well. And I got there one night to set up, and there's a lad there called Adam. He'd been in my shop to buy a mixer with his dad. He was only about 16, 17. He said, I've got some Technics and I want a mixer. There was a mix called Made to Fade, and I was the only one who got me in stock. So that was that. And we got talking, and he turned up there at Secrets. Well, I went to get the boxes, we stored them in the kitchen. All the wiring was installed. And he was there and said, I've come to help you with the gear. I said, oh, that's nice of you, blah, blah, blah. I've just got to go and do something. I go to the office and stuff. And when I come back, he got them all out. And there were big boxes, some of them on wheel, but he got them all out. And then he says, oh, I'm into all this is what I play and that lot. And I said to my partner, Mark Parker, I said, this lad's got what it takes, should we give him a break? Should we take him into the crew? We had a little crew, the Raw crew. There was about 5 of us, DJs and stuff. And he said, yeah. So I said, right, you can come in, Adam, but you've got to change your DJ name. And his DJ name was DJ Nose. Because he won't mind me saying, God rest his soul, because he's passed away now. He had a massive conch. And he called himself DJ Nose. So we'll get you a name. And I said, what about DJ Ecstasy, but XTC? And he become that. And he went on, when he moved back to Nottingham, to be part of the Nottingham drum and bass scene. He had his own record label, recording studio, DJ'd all around. And he used to say to me, Kay, he's crazy Kay, he said, Kay, start making beats. That's what gets you out around the world, mate. And he did it. And he had, you know, he legitimately put music out on his own label with some friends. And God bless him, he got a severe cancer that took him really quick. And went to his funeral. All the big names were there. So all the big rave producers, you know, Spider, you know, Nebula, Joe Nebula, who's got a record label, rave outfit, loads of people, MCs, and you know. And I told them the story about those, and I said, "Oh, you've got to do a tribute show." They're on a station called Kemet FM, which Adam took me over for a guest slot one day in Nottingham, and I said, "You've got to do that story." I said, "Well, I'll do a tribute show to Adam, how I met him, how he got on the scene." And how I made him change, and I said, do it. We never got round to it. But, so I liked helping people out as well, bringing them up. And I've always done it, I think. I have always done it with young DJs. DJs don't, you carry your gear around, you say, do you want to play a few records while I go to the toilet, or while I go and get paid, or whatever. And there's DJs DJing now for a living, or been DJing for a living, that I've actually got into it. And one notable one, he's got an office in Miami, an office in Ibiza. He runs a record label called CR2. His name's Mark Brown, but it was called Mark Younghead was his DJ name. Do you know that? No. MYNC project. Used to DJ at Passion at the Emporium in the house room. So now Mark's gone on to bigger and better. He was working in Ainley's Records, and he'd come up and said, "Can I play some records, mate?" And he just got some promos, and people like that. It was around about that time I was doing student night, dance night up there. And I left it to him when I went to work in Greece for summer season. After the marriage collapse, the shop collapsed, the bankruptcy looming, I whipped off to Greece, buried me in the sand for a summer season. So I gave him the night. I said, "If you want to do it, Mark." And he went on. And yeah, he's got all them offices, and just, you know, just to big him up. If he goes on tour, he's got a tour bus with his face on the side. That's how big he is. He's done remixes for Kylie and Madonna. He's, under his own name, Mark Brown, and he's done good. And I'm proud to have helped people like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I went to a disco show, DJ show at BPM, DJ show at the NEC, and a new slip map was coming on to the Pioneer stage. I was just launching a new Pioneer CD player, the CDJ 2000, and so we gathered around there. Anu will be there doing the show, but Nick and his Nick Corelli and Mark Younghead, so MYNC, that's where they got the name from. Oh yeah, we're launching it, we're playing a set, and it's like memory stick. You put in that deck and it talks to that deck. So they did this house set, and this guy come along, and Mark said, "This is the CEO of Pioneer UK." And I went, "Oh, nice to meet you." And Mark said, "This is a chap who got me into DJing, who gave me my break." And he went, "Oh, you're to blame, are you? We can't get rid of him now." So that's all I needed.
Yeah.
A little pat on the back goes a long way.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it meant a lot. And I still keep in touch with Mark now and again. He's, you know.
Safe to say, it's introduced you to some fantastic people, Chris.
It has.
You know.
It has. It's opened some doors. It's introduced me to some great people. I've Carl Cox, when he played at Chaos, and I was up there, and it wasn't a DJ booth as such. It was a table on the balcony with a table behind for your records, and then maybe a table to section it off. And he was on the decks, and I went to sit and watch him. I sat on this table, and in between the mix, he started patting his pockets like that with a little cheeky herbal cigarette in his mouth, and he's going like that. So I flinted my lighter, and he saw it in the dark and came over and lit it, and he said cheers. He carried on in the mix, and then he went, "Pass me his J." And I'm like, that's Carl Cox. That's you know, so that's just one off. Yeah. And I became actual friends with some others. I mean, Carl not so much, but people like Slipmat from SL2 and that. Again, you know, I used to book him, became friends with him, booked him. I've MC'd for him, so I'm on some tape packs that are out there. I introduced SL2 The Act when they came to Rage nightclub on High Street, where I was resident DJ there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have met some nice people, some genuine people.
So what about the dark side of the scene then, Chris? Because, you know, there is a dark side, or there was a dark side to it as well.
People soon realised, excuse me, and it was, excuse me, security companies realised there was frog in the throat. They're going to have to cut this out. Typical. Testing. We're nearly there. Testing. I have to do this for a living. Icicle, bicycle, tricycle, testicle. 1, 2, testing. I think it's coming back. Okay, where was I?
Yeah,
so
the dark side.
the scene started to be impacted by the wrong people who saw the pound signs and infiltrated the supply of the sweets and the synthetic stimulation, taking it off people on the door, because you had amnesty bins anyway, the big raves, but then bringing them in the back door and having distributed inside for themselves. So they realised there was money to be made. So that was, it started to go dark then. It was still good. There was a lot of people who didn't know, but when you knew about it, it did kind of taint it a bit. It was a little fly in the ointment. And then they just kind of, if you like, certain people just kind of took over. And I even know, to speak in, I met on holiday a few years ago in Ibiza, family holiday, got my mum there, and I met Neville Fivey, who's MC Loud and Nasty, from one of the partners in Amnesia. And we spoke, and he said Amnesia was muscled in on. It was meant to be their own club in Leicester, but in the end they had nothing to do with it. The name was muscled in on. So was the name Nemesis, which is why Leroy, DJ SS and Idris, his partner, changed it to Total Chaos. Nemesis was their name. And that's when it got to be a bit, it was a bit, and then I was summoned to do certain things. I played quite a lot of illegal raves, which I loved. It's just that, I won't say run by the wrong people, but run by people who didn't have a lot of say in what happened. Right, we've got this due on this night, you're free, aren't you? Of course you are. Right, so like I said, big sound system. I'll have a Luton van, sound system, a couple of lads helping, get raided. One time was just off Burnmore Street, near Philbrook Street, in a factory there, empty factory. But he'd been good enough to give me an alibi story. This Mr. So-and-so, who was buying this warehouse, was having a party for industry-related people, so it was a private party, and I'd just be booked on the phone. Just turn up with your gear and I'll pay you on the night. So I said to the police, well, that's what I do. People do that, you turn up on the night and get paid. But what happened was, set the sound system up when everyone's getting the infrastructure already, all the doormen, like the Leicester lads from all the doors and the gyms in Leicester. All of a sudden the police turned up, and everyone's like, shh. And everyone's like, they've got dogs. We weren't open to the public yet, but they were queuing. They've got dogs. So we all went up onto the roof, onto the actual roof space, outdoors. And they come up afterwards. We know you're up there. If you don't come down, we'll send the dogs out. So we all went down 1v1, me and my helper last. And they said, get all the gear back in the van. And they impounded it, arrested us, and took us down Charles Street and kept us the night. And I thought, Adam's stashes in the mix. Shit, but they didn't come across it. They said they searched the van, and but in the morning, when we were interviewed, they took the story. We were there. We were booked for a private party. Really, they didn't really have anything else to go on as regards we were concerned. They said, we know who's behind it. We know whose lads there were. We know who's behind it. And I'm like, I've just got the name Mr. Jones or whatever it was. Private party for his clients and his industry people. They had to let me go. There's no charge, but it was something to tell the lads about. Back down the pub. You know what I mean? People knew. My friend went home. MC Marbles, Marlon, and he bought my car, so he met me out with my car, wicked, because they kept the van for a couple of days, I think, and that was it. I said, so that was the dark side creeping in. Like, the ones who did it for the love of the music and the scene were kind of overshadowed by the ones who wanted money out of it and stature, you know. And that just got worse and worse to the point where, in the end, I jumped off the bandwagon, and that's another reason I went to Greece to get off of the roller coaster. I was the first DJ to play at Die Hard, their first illegal party, which was in a flat after a Nemesis at Joker's. So me and Nick Starkey DJ'd there, and UG9s, who's now passed away, God rest his soul. But he was giving me loads of stick because he was on too much of the wrong kind of synthetic stimulation and started giving me stick as I was playing. So short, the owner of that particular rave had to tell him off. And that went into a warehouse rave was their next one, and then a club, which was Die Hard. So everyone will know who it is. And I was the first DJ. I helped put the bass speakers in and stuff like that, bit of lighting, and played the first ever set there. So that was good. Enjoyed that while it lasted.
Yep.
But again, the darkness side of it. And do you know what? Even the music was called Darkness by that point, and it had eerie stuff in it. And I was saying on this other interview that I was on outside Die, I was saying this was the Dielectric Club. There was a record by SS that had sort of a girl on it who was obviously being held captive and was screaming out, which got progressively louder as the music came back in. And it was banned from that club because he didn't want any. He wanted it. He eventually went down the happy hardcore route because that's what he wanted. PLUR, peace, love, unity, respect. He wanted that. You know, so he wouldn't allow that. But it was just the people that went in. To be fair, you know, by this time, no disrespect to townies because I was kind of one myself, but townies were coming in as well because they could get a drink. So it wasn't just ravers. So the ravers were a bit freaked out. The townies that do the normal clubs and bars and then come in because they know they could get a cheeky drink, you know. And fantastic drink policy because there was a bar there stacked up with red stripe and everything, but they got no licence. But out in the crowd, the owner of the club and promoter would be giving away free drink vouchers. Hey, oh mate, free drink voucher, £5. And everyone would go to the bar with a free drink voucher. And that's how they got around it. And in the end, it became a licensed club because they came down on him and said, can't let you go on, you've got no fire escape. So he had a brickie in, some builders in, but build me a fire escape there. It was like that. It was like that. And so that was all right, but that just went down a route I wasn't bothered about, happy hardcore. It came to a T-junction, happy hardcore one way, jungle the other, and I wasn't impressed by either, really. I didn't like the jungle thing because by now you had people letting guns off. I went to one in the Lace Market in Nottingham. I think my friend Adam was playing, and it was sort of the well-known Nottingham lads and that. And someone was letting a gun off somewhere in the corner. You could hear it, you know. And that was, you know, that was run by the counterpart Nottingham scene runner, the counterpart of the Leicester one. So we got in free, which is, I'll mention my name, you'll all get in free, which it was good for that. We went everywhere, you know, getting in free, the Eclipse, from up in the north a bit right down to Cornwall. We just, as a crew, we drove around in a car and just went everywhere. You'd have a bag of records in the boot, you'd often get to play. We made a record or two each. We dabbled in that. That was good experience. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, but that dark side, that really did start to taint it.
I was going to say, before you went to Greece, Chris, was there one particular incident, or was it just a cumulative thing?
There were several little ones. One of them was I was asked, definitely not summoned, I was asked to be somebody's character witness in a court case for a firearm, mentioning no names. And basically my statement was given to me. So it was a case of memorise that and eat it. Not really, but it was a case of, you know. And I never actually got called to court, but I was a character witness on paper. And that sort of thing made me think twice. What am I into now? There was a club which I put an expensive high-end sound system into at that time that I never managed to get all the money for. So as a single sole trader, that affected me a lot. You know, and I was facing impending bankruptcy then. Shop wasn't doing too well. That was that big crash of about 92, 93. And my solicitor said, Chris, put close on the door, put the close sign on the door, move your stuff to someone's garage and sell it in the Mercury, the miscellaneous sales, which I did. I did exactly that. And because the marriage was suffering by this time for the same reason, it was everything in the pot. It all got too messy. There was that. And I just thought, you know what, I'm off. I'm just going to go off and clear my head, get off the gravy train. But when I come back, I was offered a job at Die Hard. And it was like, Chris, resident DJ, you're going to record all the tape packs. you're going to take the tape packs to the duplicators and order all the stuff and then distribute them around the shop. I'm going to pay you good money. You'll be on, I think it was £1,000 a week or something like that, you know, back in 92, 93-ish, 94. And I said, oh, mate, I'm too busy, I can't do it. And the truth is, and if he's watching it, he'll know I hadn't got a pot to piss in. I literally hadn't got a pot to piss in. But I was determined not to go back down that route. I was determined to only do what made me happy, to cherry pick what I wanted to do. But inevitably, it was back to what paid the rent again. And somebody, a Leicester legend, at this time had got a karaoke business running, and he did very well at it. Leicester's first proper karaoke business. And when I came back, he asked me what I'd got, and I said nothing. And he said, come to mine, pick a karaoke system out, go and get some work, and give it me back when you're on your feet. And again, things like that. He didn't have to do that, and you know, to this day, he's that kind of friend who will drop everything for you. And you know, and so that got me back into DJing. So at my local pub, which was the Beaumont Lees on Beaumont Lees Lane, got karaoke night. Then what do you do, disco as well? Yeah, I do disco as well. And I was like, can you lend me some decks? I'd still got my record. So yeah, got back into it, and it's got me back on my feet again.
Yeah.
You know, so the amount of ups and downs.
Yeah.
I mean, sitting on a shop doorstep in Greece with enough money, literally, to buy a dry bread roll. And I sat and I thought, how did I get here?
Yeah.
It just went completely tits up.
Yeah.
You know, and I was threatened by a bar owner because I wanted to leave, a Greek bar owner. English bar owner from Nottingham wanted me to go and work in his bar, which was a show bar, a bit like JT's Piano Bar. And I taken all that stuff over because it was a family fun bar I was working in. He took offence to it. It's like it's free to get in, you pay to get out. But they own you, they rule you. And he nicked record boxes full of records and stuff. And, you know, I learnt the hard way there. Went to the police and they said, are you over here on a worker's licence? No, he went, you ain't got a leg to stand on it. And I thought, that's why. When you're DJing, he had an old pensioner outside the bar where everyone sits drinking with his arms folded, and he had a remote control in his hand, and all the lighting and sound system came out the wall and went into one plug, right, with a timer on it, with a remote. And when the police drove down the street, he'd go click, and then all this old 1970s lighting would go and just stop.
Yeah.
And he said, at that point, you sit down with the customer.
Yeah.
So I just sit at someone's table and say, hey, right, folks, having a good night? Yeah, what's happened? I went, we just had to have a break for a bit because the police went by. So, you know, it's really, I didn't research it or anything.
Yeah.
You know, I was over there on holiday. My daughter got cassette tape in a Walkman, me live at JT's. The barman said, what are you listening to? Oh, this is good, who's it? And he put it in the cassette in the bar. And who's this? He said, it's my dad. Where is he? He's over there on the beach. And she said, tell him to come in a bit. And I went in and said, do you want a job? And I thought, do you know what? So, you know, the divorce was looming. I'd separated from my wife, and I thought, do you know what? Yeah, I might go for it. And that's how I ended up going to work there. Yeah. And to clear my head, which it did, because I never went back down that route. I'd learned a lot of lessons. I was quite naive, wet behind the ears, easily manipulated probably, because I was quite insecure as a youngster. So anybody who befriended me, I was like, give it all sort of thing, you know. But my dad always had this saying, always judge somebody on how they treat people who are not on their level. And I took that on board. So all these doormen I'd met and stuff, good lads and that, you know what I mean? When I started my shop, if ever you need any help, son, and one day someone was getting out of order and I rang up, and him and the lad's done the karaoke for it. They won't mind me mentioning him because he's a good lad, Fincher, Steve Finch, right? And Phil Crisp, God rest his soul, who's dead now, gentle giant, kickboxing world champion and everything. They were at my shop in 5 minutes flat and got this lad out. Yeah. Out. So I've met some good people like that, you know. And that's what you have to look back on. And genuine people like that, others not so genuine, reeled you in for a purpose. You know, I was told have I mentioned yet that I put a high-end sound system in a club? Have we gone through that yet? In a rave club, and never got all the money. That was instrumental in me going bankrupt. Because sole trader, you know, 20 odd grand, a little bit over 20 grand, And when we were what you call commissioning the system, which is setting up the amps and playing something, see how it sounded, one of the partners came in and was singing Happy Birthday, and my friend who'd got me the job really, hooked me up with them, started laughing, and I said, what are you laughing at? And he says, he's singing Happy Birthday. I said, yeah, I can hear him. And he said, it means you're getting the bumps. And I didn't twig what he meant, but he explained it.
Yeah, getting bumped.
It was a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same with Amnesia. Oh, this lad with his little disco shop be handy to us, but they treated me right. They were fair and square, good people. Terry Winkle, a Leicester legend, event manager, used to do the Abbey Park Music Festival and that. She was a Leicester legend organising events. She held the licence for Amnesia at Donington, and she treated me, brilliantly. But put me on a pedestal, let me in everywhere for free, and appreciated what I did. And that's all I needed, really. I was making a bit of money from it, but getting appreciated. But there were those who didn't. There was those who took advantage.
Yeah.
So same with my little disco shop. He'll be handy to us. Get him in for a quote. Done a quote. Want the best of the best. Went over to meet him. I said, I've got your good system, turbo sound, which in its day was the Rolls Royce of speakers. The reason I got it is because I had an account with AKG Microphones who bought turbo sound. So that means I could get turbo sound, trade. Took it over, I said, top of the range amps, top of the range everything. How much? I said, well, you said you wanted the best. It's 22 grand. And he went, 22 grand? I said, yeah, but you did say when he went. My hi-fi were 20 grand. He went, right, me, so-and-so, outside the Bank of Scotland on, is it Beaver Street or one of them streets down in town near St Martin's? They will give you a banker's draft for half of it. So I got a banker's draft for 10 grand. Ordered the gear in, booked some installation engineers, and that was it. That's the last I got. Until the word went round that I was going under, after my accountant had said, my solicitor said, closed on the door. Yeah. And I was sitting there in an empty shop one day because I'd moved from a tiny little Aladdin's cave to a big 3-storey shop that had a recording studio. It had a Raw Promotions office. Somebody else rented out an office. It had a basement. But my gear from this small shop, it just looked like empty. You know what I mean? It just didn't work. The rent trebled. So it came in one day, the person who owed me money for putting the gear in the club. Don't get me wrong, I need to add, they had their own problems in their promotion, and I think they were bankrupted for something. So obviously money was scarce for them, and but he did come in and say, look, I'm going to give you that £1,000, put it in your back pocket. And I said, all right, thank you, I appreciate it. He said, well, we get sorted, everyone will get paid, And I took that £1,000 and gave it to the VAT office near building beside St Mary's Church, and little lad there patronising me behind the counter. So I skimmed it under the little where you put your hand in the glass, like that, signed for it and walked out. And when I did go bankrupt, when I come back from Corfu, I was told that your VAT doesn't come under bank. It would have got wiped off.
Yeah.
But I was misinformed that it doesn't.
Yeah.
I was missing, one bit of good information was one thing that doesn't get written off is anything like CCJs, parking fines that have escalated, they'll put you in prison for them, and poll tax at the time as it was.
Yeah.
But they included VAT in it, and I was naive, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So the last grand I could have had.
Yeah, you gave away to the VAT man.
Yeah.
Chris, with your permission, I'm going to get you back another time because there's a lot more that I want to ask you. We're just about at the hour, so just put one more quick question. It's just because we've spoken about clubs a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a figure going around at the minute that before COVID there was something like 2,500 clubs in this country. And I think we're down to about 400. And this is like in a 4-year period.
Yeah.
What's very quickly? What's your thoughts on that?
There was a noticeable downward spiral, and at the time I was working in commercial clubs, so we're talking 2008-ish, 2007, 2007, let's say, I was working for a guy in Grantham who'd got several clubs. I was in a big club, and the smoking ban come in. That was the first nail in the coffin. Because when you walked into a club on a night, it stunk. Everybody had to refurb because smoke masked the smell of stale beer-ridden club.
Yeah.
And when you smell stale beer in the daytime in a nightclub, it's rank.
Yeah.
So they all like to recarpet and stuff. Smoking areas. When one person or one group on the dance floor would go, going for a fag, they'd all go like sheep and all go, bleh, and they'd all go, and your dance floor would empty out. And you couldn't get consistency going, you couldn't build it up. That was the first thing. We all noticed that. And then at one of his venues in Melton, which was a disco bar, I was running social media for it all. People used to get dropped off in taxis there. It was the right place in town, so we'd be the first port of call. So we'd be busy from early doors, so 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, right through till 2. And I noticed the taxi slowing down and stuff over a couple of years. And then, because I was running the social media for several of these venues, I started to see youngsters were pre-drinking a lot. We're on it tonight, we're going out in town later, and the kitchen side would be vodka, alka pops, shots. So they're getting steaming in home and not spending any money when they got in town. And they were coming in town later because of it. So that was another nail in the coffin. So they're now arriving in between 11 and 12 and you're shutting at 2. You've only got 2 hours to make your money.
Yeah.
So then the nightclubs had to, the commercial nightclubs had to apply for extensions, and they had to go till 4 because they weren't going in their places till 2 now. People that go in at 11, 12, so there was that before COVID come, but COVID was probably the final nail in the coffin. People just lost money, lost clubs because they lost money, had to shut them down. I know friends in the business who have lost entertainment businesses, sound system companies who had to sell it all off and stop, who did sort of festivals and stuff. So the entertainment, what's it called? What do you call it now? What's the posh word for it? The late night sector or something.
Hospitality,
And when people were allowed back out, they were nervous. They were, it was, the places weren't as busy. And people just couldn't get people through the door because obviously for what was it, nearly 2 years? They were partying and boozing in home when they could get away with it. So they'd thought, well, we don't need to go out and spend loads of dosh. So that early drinking culture escalated, and it had a knock-on effect. So everything had to go later. You just couldn't sustain themselves on it. I think that's a big part of it, a very big part of it.
Lovely. Well, we'll call it half time there, Chris. And like I said, I'll be in contact, and I think we'll get you back because, like I said, there's a lot more, and I don't want to sort of cram it in. I want to get these sort of stories out there or whatever. But for tonight, thanks ever so much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, Chris.
Look forward to it again.
Be in contact very soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.